first legislation of this new thing we're going to have called Congress. The first legislation is going to be a Bill of Human Rights.
A Bill of Rights, wrote Thomas Jefferson to James Madison, is what the people are entitled to against every government on earth. The Bill of Rights is under intense scrutiny, both by Congress and the courts. Congress has so many new proposed constitutional amendments pending that it is hard to keep track of them.
How about a bathing suit made out of the Stars and Stripes?
There's one amendment to make the desecration of the American flag a crime, which sailed through the House last week.
Let's pray.
And a religious equality amendment, which would permit voluntary prayer in public schools. Not since the Civil War have we been so intent on tampering with the documents upon which our country is based. Are we in the midst of a second American Revolution, or are we in danger of undoing the very principles that have held us in good stead these past 200 and some years? We gathered together some constitutional experts to discuss where we stand on the Bill of Rights this 4th of July weekend. Nadine Strawson is the president of the American Civil Liberties Union. Jay Sekulow is chief counsel for Pat Robertson's American Center for Law and Justice, which has been called the Christian rights answer to the ACLU. Roger Pilon, a libertarian who held 5 posts in the Reagan administration, is senior fellow at the Cato Institute. And Kendall Thomas is professor of constitutional law at Columbia University.
Something we may or may not agree on, free speech on cyberspace, free speech on the internet. There's another effort to stop pornography coming right out of your computer. Is that legitimate?
The technology is advancing so fast that it is a classic example before us of Congress being utterly unable to keep up with it, either in understanding what's going on or being able to regulate it. I think the Exxon Amendment is doomed to failure, and I do hope that we are going to see cyberspace left open. There are chips that parents can buy that will enable them to control what comes into their family computers. That, it seems to me, is the way to go about this.
I have to say there's one other very dangerous aspect of the Exxon Amendment, in addition to killing freedom of expression in cyberspace, at least theoretically. There is also a gross invasion of privacy, because it puts online service providers as well as the government in the position of monitoring communications, including private communications, electronic love letters, if you will, to see whether there is any indecent or filthy language, to quote 2 words from the bill itself.
Jay Sekulow, is an on-off switch enough?
Look at the reality of what we're dealing with, because the reality is what's happening to the country morally. I think there's a fundamental issue at stake here, and that is, why are we up in arms, or why are some up in arms about the idea that through cyberspace we could eliminate pornography being viewed by young people? I hope that we're not up in arms about that. When you have consenting adults, the law is clearly one way. When it's young people, it's clearly something else.
But the bill is not limited to young people. The bill would deprive all consenting adults of access to any sexually oriented or even
no, it doesn't
non-sexually
say sexually oriented.
Well,
it does not say sexually oriented.
No.
It says pornography.
No, it does. It does not. It says any obscene, indecent, lewd, lascivious, or filthy material. Now, that's certainly going to extend to anything related to sex.
I find it ironic that the same people who argue for minimal government are willing to bring the full coercive power of the state into the homes of the American people. Jay's position...
Which is what the Bill of Rights was all about.
Which is precisely what the Bill of Rights was meant to guard against.
Exactly.
And the very same people who argue in other contexts that so much of our American life ought to be left to the workings of the marketplace, when it comes to questions that offend their private sense of morality, are willing to call on the policemen, courts, and the like to intervene in the private lives of citizens.
The American flag. There is an amendment to prevent and prohibit the burning of the American flag. Roger Pilon?
This Congress, above all, should not be involved in this kind of activity. There is no epidemic of flag burning in the country. There is no outpouring of sentiment for this across the country. It is merely political pandering. And I think that it is an unneeded and unwarranted intrusion upon the principles of the First Amendment.